Oh, hey, you like knives and ninja type stuff, right? Well, believe me, Hunter's got you covered. Heads up everybody, my name is SentinelGray and welcome to the channel. Here I'm going to be talking to you about the Destiny class of Hunter. So if you're thinking about playing Destiny or you're a relatively new player to the game and want to know more about what Hunters are about, stick around. Looking at Hunters right from the get-go, you probably think of like a ranger, rogue, or assassin from a fantasy RPG, and that's honestly what they're going for. Hunters act very similarly to those classes and deal a whole ton of damage, or they could just outright slay enemies. Now, in Destiny, if you have 3 different characters, all have the same stats, but are on separate classes, they will all act the same. They'll have the same amount of health, mobility, and cooldown time. So, if you're playing a Hunter, there's no guarantee you're going to be the quickest person in the fire team. You feel me? Now, that's not exactly a bad thing. If you want to make it so that you can fling more knives than your warlock can cast spells, you can do that with absolutely no problem. You just need to know how to build it that way. But of course, this is not a how to build a Hunter video. That is not what we're here for. We're here for what are the basics of the Hunter and what can they do. So let's get into it. Hunters, like the other 2 classes in the game, have 4 subclasses, one of each element type in the game. Solar Hunters are called Gunslingers, Void Hunters are called Nightstalkers, Arc Hunters are called Arcstriders, and Stasis Hunters are called Revenants. For the Solar, Void, and Arc subclasses, there are 3 trees in each subclass that change the way your Hunter plays and what abilities you have in your subclass. Stasis is a bit different though, but I'll cover that later, so don't worry. Solar Hunters, which are known as Gunslingers, fully embrace that old school N64 GoldenEye golden gun approach. So if you ever wanted to delete anything with a one-shot, Gunslinger is what you'll need to be. Top tree Gunslinger, Way of the Outlaw. As you might have guessed, this tree is all about hitting your targets like an old western gunslinger. One of the abilities in this tree even makes it so that it minimizes your downtime from firing by giving you a bonus reload speed for every precision kill. Not only that, but as long as you keep killing with this tree's super ability, you can keep firing as long as you have super energy, since with each kill, your golden gun refunds you 1 bullet. Now, just in case that wasn't enough to make you want to be an outlaw, the melee ability for this tree might do the trick, cause nothing packs more of a punch than an exploding throwing knife. Middle tree Gunslinger is called a Way of 1,000 Cuts. Now, although the subclass is called Gunslinger, this tree has nothing to do with guns. However, you'll be dealing with your enemies with knives. Now, the melee for this tree lets you throw a fan of 3 knives that once they hit, burn your targets. Now, the really nice thing about this is that the longer they burn, the more class ability energy you gain. And if you happen to kill a burning enemy, it recharges your knife throw more quickly. Now, replacing your golden gun super is an ability that lets you throw a volley of explosive knives at your enemies, which can clear a room when dealing with crowd control. Finally, Way of the Sharpshooter, Bottom Tree Gunslinger. This tree is all about getting precision hits and dealing as much damage as possible. The throwing knife melee for this tree deals extra damage on a precision hit and automatically gives you your knife back on a precision kill. Combine that with the 2 abilities that together increase your weapon stability and handling and decrease your super cooldown time, and you're a force to be reckoned with. Now, with this tree being able to hit all those crits, the super doesn't lack on that either. This version of Golden Gun can make precision hits do an absolutely insane amount of damage. This tree is number 1 in the game for super ability DPS. The Nightstalker Hunter is for anyone who loves to be stealthy. Unfortunately, stealth isn't that big of a thing in Destiny, but being invisible sure as hell helps a lot sometimes. Top tree Nightstalker, Way of the Trapper. With this tree, you'll be all about getting ahead of your enemy and waiting for them to appear. The melee for this tree is a throwable smoke bomb that's proximity based, and enemies that get caught in it are blinded and slowed. Also, when using your Hunter class ability with this tree, it makes you invisible to let you pass right around the enemies without a worry. The super ability for this tree is extremely hard to pass up on. Your Void Bow fires a shot that creates a Void Anchor that keeps targets in place and allows you and your teammates to deal extra damage while they are tethered. Perfect for boss encounters. Way of the Wraith, the Nightstalker middle tree. This tree is all about embracing your inner rogue. Getting those precision kills on this tree grants you invisibility and increase your melee range so you can follow up with your melee that weakens enemies when you hit them. With your melee ability, however, your smoke bomb turns corrosive, so instead of blinding enemies, it deals damage over time while slowing them. Finally is your super, which once you activate it has the ability to do a whole ton of things. At its base, this super can absolutely slice through any enemy that gets in your way. However, once you use your heavy attack, you'll strike an enemy and then turn completely invisible. Finally, Way of the Pathfinder, bottom tree Nightstalker. This tree deals in a lot of ability synergy. The smoke grenade melee has the ability to turn not only you and your allies invisible. Doing this grants you grenade energy. Adding to that, your grenade effects last twice as long, and any damage you deal with them converts into melee energy, so you can keep turning allies invisible. It's some of the best synergy that the hunter has. The super, however, gives you multiple shots from your void bow that you can fire. These shots still tether targets, but have a smaller range than the top tree shot. Not only that, but if you hit a target who is already tethered with the remaining shots of your bow, you deal extra damage. Perfect for getting large groups to stop in their tracks. Arcstriders, they are the embodiment of the phrase, you can't hit what you can't catch. So if you like to float like a butterfly and sting like a bee, then you may want to give this a look. Top tree, Way of the Warrior. This tree is all about dodging out of your enemy's attacks and making them pay for it. The melee ability heals you on kills and increases your melee damage so you can break faces more easily. On top of that, your melee kills recharge your class ability, and dodging with your class ability increases your melee range, making you be able to break more faces from further away. This combo applies even to your super ability. Whenever you have your super activated, you get to roam around with a bow staff in hand, and dodging and meleeing affect just the same as whenever you're not using your super. Middle tree Arcstrider, Way of the Current. Here you'll be wanting to hit as many enemies with your abilities as possible. Doing that electrifies those enemies, which not only disorients them, but also gives you energy to all of your abilities. So even if you don't kill something with your uppercut melee ability or your grenade, simply damaging them is enough to help you. It's worth adding too that melee kills in this tree help your weapon reload speed as well. But what sets this apart from the other trees is the ability to guard with your bow staff super. Guard with your bow staff not only protects you, but it also deflects incoming projectiles as well, meaning rockets, grenades, or throwing knives can't hit you while you guard. Bottom tree, Way of the Wind. Risk and reward are the fundamentals of this tree. While you're critically wounded, this tree makes your grenade and melee abilities recharge insanely faster. Luckily, if you're in a pinch, the melee ability here disorients all nearby enemies, so you'll be able to run away with the increased sprint speed that the tree also grants you. If you like that style of gameplay, then have at it. There are quite a few ways you can keep yourself in that critical state without dying in this game. So, like I said earlier, all those subclasses have all those trees for you to pick from, and there's 9 in total, so you have a pretty wide variety of what the game gives you to use. But the last Stasis subclass is a bit more customizable. The Stasis subclass is all about slowing or freezing your enemies no matter what class you choose. Specifically for the Revenant, you'll be using frozen throwing stars and dual commas during your super. Yeah, you heard me. The melee ability for the subclass is a pair of throwing stars, allowing you to freeze or slow your enemies. Not only that, but they also tend to bounce between your enemies and even off walls and hard surfaces too. This is the only subclass in the entire game that can give you 2 melee charges without the use of any armor, mods, or weapons. Now what about those dual commas you use as your super? Well, the super ability for the Revenant Hunter is called Silence and Squall. The super is a one-time use but has 2 activations that go off. The silence portion of the super freezes all enemies in a large radius so that they're easier to take down. The squall creates an ice storm in the form of an ice tornado that slows, freezes, and damages any enemy trapped inside. This 1-2 punch of an ability is an extremely good thing to use for crowd control when dealing with a lot of enemies in front of you. The final things I want to talk about are the Hunter's class and jump abilities. Now the class ability for the Hunter is a straight up get out of danger dodge. This dodge can either give you an instant melee charge or reload your weapon fully if you dodge close to an enemy. Just make sure it's close to an enemy or you won't get any of that back. The Hunter's jump, however, is just a straight up double or even triple jump. If you've played literally any video game ever, you know how this works. So to wrap up, Hunters are an awesome class for people who love a lot of mobility. Something to keep in mind is that with all these subclasses, abilities, and perks, they're fine, but the core of Destiny's gameplay is in its weapons. because it's how the game is, you're not going to be throwing knives as a hunter left and right. You'll still have to rely on your guns for the vast majority of your fights. Now, that doesn't mean you can't make a build to have all your abilities come back in like 5 seconds, but just be aware that weapons are most of the time where your damage is at. It's worth adding too that there are a variety of different weapons and armor pieces in the game that can improve or even change the way your subclass plays. So that what I've told you isn't always going to be the way that you have to play each tree. And remember, Destiny is made that you can play practically any class any way that you want as long as you know how to build it. That is going to be it for me for this video, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. If you like the video, please be sure to leave a like. And if you want to see any more videos that I do, especially these class-related videos, please hit the subscribe button so you can see those. And if you like live content, I stream every Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday on Twitch at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I will have a link for that in the description box down below. Thank you all so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. Remember, keep your heads up and be kind to each other. Bye now.